So this piece is a traditional piece. It has a couple of issues on it, and these issues happen when we don't measure. You are missing a great deal. So you could say, oh yes, it looks good. I mean, it's a little bit off, it's a little bit wonky, but that's my style. No, it's not. It's not your style. You don't have a style yet. What you have to do is think about what you're sacrificing when you're not measuring. If you can get it, this is a good example of an artist, a good artist that didn't measure, but they still captured the gist of the portrait. They captured a lot of likeness, but there's still that uncanniness that's going on. So what you sacrifice is anatomy. And when you sacrifice anatomy, you're sacrificing a certain amount of realism. Anatomy is realism, it always will be. One of the biggest things you cannot sacrifice that you have to make sure you measure, either you're using a stamp brush or a protractor or whatever you might use, is you have to get the eye and the pupil, the iris pupil and the eyeball all perfectly circular, because they wouldn't function if they were not perfectly circular. Imagine a square joint. It just doesn't work. It doesn't rotate. It just goes side to side or none at all. So this is something that you're sacrificing constantly. Because you made the eye longer, you lost some of the squint. So you lost the personality in this part of her eye. That's the first thing I notice when I look at professional art that uses a reference. They always capture this beautiful thing that I only see in the photograph. Sometimes I rarely see this in the reproduction, which is just the personality, just the attitude, the squint, the combination of all this realism and anatomy and the personality coming through all of that. It's hard to pinpoint it exactly, but it definitely comes from those minute little anatomy measurements, and that circle is it's very, very underrated and very, very necessary. The eyes, the way you shaded them is very asymmetrical as well. And the measurement caused you to throw off one of the nostrils. The nostrils are completely different kind. This one's more square and has two joints, and this one just swoops down in there, really similar to this one. So here you gave this one an extra joint. You made them completely two different noses, two different sides of two different noses. So what you got to do is just align that symmetry back. And symmetry is another one of those things, just like in the circular shape of the eye, symmetry isn't something you can sacrifice. So if you were to build a list and paste it on your wall or paste it on your monitor somewhere, and you tell yourself, okay, you can't forget these things, those two things make that list. Symmetry cannot be sacrificed. Write that back to me. And the perfect circular shape of the eyeball, the pupil, and the iris, they all cannot be sacrificed. They're very, very necessary. Once we figure all that out, we can try to just figure out what you're doing with the portrait. Her eyebrows aren't up in this like desperation kind of expression. She looked a little desperate or a little emotional. So desperation, vulnerability, innocence, all happens when you lift up the eyebrows like that. You see that? Sadness, misery, all that stuff happens when you lift up the inner part of the eyebrow. It's like some sort of instantaneous. As soon as you're emotional, the inner parts of your eyebrows go up. That happens to me as well. As soon as I laugh my ass off or something, the inner part of my eyebrows shoop right up, like Emilia Clarke's eyebrows. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm trying to capture the expression. Really, there's nothing better than the guide you get out of your reference. Your reference is guiding you. If you're saying that, oh yeah, I didn't measure this exactly, I don't want her exact expression, you're not at the point where you can pick and choose realism. You're not at the point where you can pick and choose anatomy. You're not Dr. Frankenstein. If you mess around, even him, if you mess around too much, you end up with a monster of a drawing. Something that is partial human or something that's really uncanny. You end up sacrificing all of that. A little bit of measurement goes a long way. And when I say measurement, it's a very general term. I've been talking about that a lot. But what I mean specifically is perfect circles, perfect squares, perfect symmetry. That's what measurement means. What other instances of measurement can you guys think of when it comes to capturing realism and measurement in general and planning? What other measurement is there? It's Daenerys. Please focus on the class. Tommy, don't hesitate to not hesitate. Tommy, don't hesitate to silence some people if they talk outside of the topic. Feel free to just put them into a timeout. So you know who you are. Yes, value measurement. You too, Izam. Checking the horizontals and the verticals. Excellent. So there's a horizontal and vertical line that helps guide you around all kinds of features. There's one for the eyes. So what I'm doing right now is, do you see this measurement that I did? This eye was kind of down there, not that much, but it was down here. This is another point of measurement that I tested. Right here, this eye and this eye are pretty level. This eye is more hooded. She's kind of squinting this one more. So you get away with a slight decrease in this one's window. So you can do a little thing like that, and that's fine. But you see the lower part of her eyeball are still pretty measured. So there's these horizontal lines right here. So when I say measure your symmetry, it's both a vertical and a horizontal symmetry, making sure that everything's on lines perfectly. So you've got your starting reference point, which is the vertical line that cuts across half the face. But that alone is not going to be helpful enough to help guide you around how to balance the corners of the eyes, the eyebrow arcs, the thickness of the brows. You need extra horizontal lines to help you find. And everything is a landmark. So a landmark is one way to, technique-wise, make measuring easier. Landmarks make measuring easier. Write that back to me. And that basically means you find a landmark of the lobe of the ear. That basically tells you that there is a slight little arc till you find the nose and the base of the nose. So if your reproduction doesn't have that, something is lost. You lost a little bit of measurement, and you lost some of the charm that is only found in the photograph. You want to bring some of that charm back with you, or else you're always going to have these weird demon creatures in your drawings instead of humans. That's really what they're going to look like. They're going to look like uncanny. They're going to look inhuman. Anything that disrupts it. See it in babies as well. There was this beauty documentary, and they were talking about stuff that makes babies cry. Pretty faces don't make babies cry. I'm not sure if you guys know which documentary. It was once linked in the community. If you can find that and link it again, that would be awesome. But they said that symmetrical faces are really pleasing to children. And bright colors and all that other stuff. But symmetrical faces are really important. So as soon as you throw off or pervert the symmetry in any possible way, you end up having something uncanny. The symmetry is that specific in our understanding of a human face. When part of the face is missing, just think about Two-Face from Batman, when part of the face is twisted, like that one girl, was it Downton Abbey or something? I don't remember which show, but her whole fucking jawline was just gone, and you could see her throat and stuff. That stuff is really scary to us. It freaks the crap out of us. It doesn't make just babies cry. It makes adults cry too. So when the symmetry is gone, that you're sacrificing not only beauty, you're sacrificing the human factor. You're sacrificing the identity of the creature that you're drawing. It's the difference between an orange and an apple at that point. And you might think this is a little bit tedious and a little bit perfectionist. It's not. Our whole craft is a craft of perfectionism because there's just too many sciences to moderate. So you have to look out for those details. Those details mean the world for the success of your reproduction and the success of your memorization of these in your visual library. Another landmark is finding the highest extreme point in the outline of the face. The cheeks reach out higher. In your version, the cheeks on the lower jaw reached out higher. So that made her look very, very masculine. So you lost the feminine in that lack of measurement. And that's a landmark kind of way to measure. So we're tucking the cheekbones out most, and we're pushing in the lower jawline for it to feel more feminine. And then, of course, there's the expression of her mouth. She is slightly pouting, not really. It feels like her mouth is just, that size. It doesn't feel like she's doing a really outward duck lip kind of thing. So I'm just going to make it a very, very gentle, unintentional duck lip, which is kind of what she's doing. And then you've got the Cupid's bow, which is extremely exaggerated. Almost so exaggerated it feels like her lip was torn in this pattern instead of it just being a natural pattern naturally occurring. Also, almost always you guys really, really, really overdo the visibility of the teeth. Teeth visibility, if it's extensive, it makes the teeth look like it makes the person look like a monster, because what happens is you get that. This is a lot. I want to show the teeth. Teeth, really, really important for this character, meaning they use their teeth, meaning they have these monstrous teeth. So what you want to do, if the reference is telling you the teeth are barely visible, you have no license to overshow them. If you're drawing any kind of smiling character, don't show the distance between the teeth as much as you usually do. So smudge this out. I know this is traditional. Smudge it out with your finger. It'll feel a lot more natural. Okay, and then I'm just going to balance the shape of the eye a little bit more. So it's small, tiny stuff, but it kept this artist from achieving the real charm of the reference they're working from. They got a lot out of their first attempt. It's strange, really. They draw so well. And to think someone who draws so well, they have this blind spot that they can never just eyeball through. You can't eyeball through the sciences. It's human error. You can't find a cheat around the mathematics in a face. If you try to eyeball it, it's physically impossible to capture it exactly as you need to. So you end up with something like this. Like I said, you lose a lot of the human, and you get that subpar, not professional, not advanced look that will always leave you in the background. That'll never put your portfolio out there in front with the rest. You want your portfolio out there in front. If you don't have the discipline and the capacity to measure and use that extensive just planning stage of the early parts of the sketch, you will always be in the backdrop. You won't capture the charm as this after does. And no, it's not. I would never choose this over this if I was an employer. I would always choose this. I am the employer. Let's imagine I can't draw for shit. And I find the difference between this quality of artist and this quality of artist. I'm an employer. I'm fickle. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, maybe they have more spirit. They're capable of more. All I see are mistakes. I don't see a potential style, which is the excuse you come at me with. Oh, this was my style. These choices were my choices because they were a style choice. So an employer isn't going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and you probably don't even deserve it because it's just a simple measurement issue. Symmetry, figuring out where the nose is. I mean, it was as simple as planning where the nose is going to be instead of actually just choosing. This is the first line you drew. The first line you drew is not going to be the best line you draw. So they'll write that back to me. The first line you draw is not the best line you draw. You got to just go try for like 15 more. And those 15 can be done in a rough stage. Those 15 can be done in a planning stage. Easy. Get rid of all of those excessive mistakes that you don't really need to put in the stage. They can just be in the back somewhere. They won't never know you had to try 15 times before you got the nostril right. All they know is that you actually got a final nose picture that actually looked good. And you can't just depend on Liquify to do it for you. There's no Liquify in your brain. There's no Liquify in real life. There's just an eraser and really badly torn, mistreated paper because of all the erasing you're doing. So might as well just get a nice light pencil and just measure as you need to. Erase the measuring lines later on. Nothing's better than zooming out, keeping your sketchbook at an arm's distance away. Just making sure you have all the measurement. The reference is as far away from you as the sketchbook is. This way you can really see the bigger picture. The measurements that really count, those are the measurements, again, landmarks, the highest reaching point of the cheekbones, the lowest reaching point of the chin, the starting of the jawline according to the mouth. It's always beneath, right here. It's always beneath the mouth line. So horizontal line for the mouth symmetry. The jawline is right underneath that square of the jaw. You can make this as low as you want. What you can throw off in measurement is just how long her face is. Like you can make her nose a little bit wider. You can make her jaw a little bit lower. This is something that I did in a recent painting of mine. I don't like showing my art in the classes. I don't like being that YouTuber that always shows their art. I don't really care to treat my channel as a gallery. But this is an example of where I made a lot of choices that I felt like were permissible measurement changes. I didn't fuck around with the placement of the inner corner of the eye. I didn't mess around with that. The eye tilt is symmetrical all the way down, vertically and horizontally. But I didn't bother making the eyebrows symmetrical. That's something that's not controllable by bone structure. Those were very asymmetrical. Lashes are asymmetrical. I made the nose just a little bit twisted, if you guys can see. I made the nose very large. She's got a very wide nose. I made her lips a little bit too pouty, almost baby-like, which is kind of like a sickly beauty, I guess. It's too beautiful, but at the same time, it's unusual. Just that overbite, which I think is very, very gorgeous. What else? I messed around with the size of her jaw. She's got a very strong jawline. As you can see, I messed around with the cheekbones as the highest reaching, made them very sharp. But I didn't mess around with all the other basic realism. So at this point, I, Istebrak, can use the style excuse. Oh, why didn't you render out the lower lip a little bit more contrast? Style. I chose to exaggerate the contrast and the detail around the eyes, leaving everything as a step down from that focal detail and contrast. Down here you can't find much white, but up here you find a lot of white. Again, stylistic choice guided by a fundamental. So if you want to sketch by hand, you have to guide your stylistic choices by fundamentals. The fundamentals have to be there. How else are you supposed to stylize anything without a reference of what is not stylized? So stylization can't be a constant. It has only just little explosions of style, and they cannot hinder the realism that comes with good measurement, the realism that comes with just all the good stuff that runs the show, that runs the believability that it's a human, that makes it a human. Just makes it a human. You have stylized the length of the nose, which is accessible. It's fine. It's easy. I can live with this. I've seen faces this long. But again, you can't stylize the excessive dip of the Cupid's bow. You can't stylize the placement of the eyes. If one eye is more squinted, show that, but don't make one eye smaller. You see it as smaller only because one eye is squinted, but the base of the eyeballs is the same. She has the same size eyeballs. But your asymmetry before made them look like completely different sized eyeballs. This one was long and short, and this one was very, very wide. Asymmetry in the nose, why? There's no reason to make a nose asymmetrical. It's a nose. It's all function. If it's nothing but function. There's no beauty in the nose. There's no glitter. There's no starlight in the nose. When a guy describes a woman that he loves, he doesn't talk about the shine on her nose and the pores and all that shit. It's just purely there for function. As out of the way as possible is more beautiful. Of course, it has to be the right size to match the age and all that. But usually when you talk about beauty, you talk about the eyes. The lips are something also that you can talk about when you refer to someone's beauty. And that you can spend a little bit more time on. And you can make them a little bit less symmetrical just to bring them more intrigue. But a nostril, two asymmetrical nostrils, you leave that for orcs, you leave that for ogres, you leave that for monsters. You don't mess that up on a beautiful woman's face that's supposed to be a protagonist or supposed to be a champion or something like that. Okay? So, I hope that you guys are... Damn, that girl's pores. I know as by any other name would smell as sweet. Alright, so focus, everybody. Focus, please. Is everyone focused? Who's focused? Say aye. Alright, so let's move on. Small little changes. You're an amazing artist. The detail, the control of your detail around the eyebrows, where you place the highlight, you're just there. You're just gonna cross over, but you're not gonna cross over without some discipline and a good whip to the back, a healthy whip to the back of hard work and application. Apply yourself. You're under pressure all the time to be the best artist in your area, to impress your parents. I think that it's more than worth it to just spend a little bit of time practicing how you measure stuff. There's all kinds of art books out there, and I've already listed two really okay, good, everyone's paying attention. I already listed two really good measurements to never sacrifice, which is vertical and horizontal symmetry, the nose and the eyes. That stuff you just can't throw out the window. All right, so save that. So let's find another photo study. So this photo study was bothering me just a little bit. Actually, not a lot of it, because the beauty of this painting is in this cast shadow. There's nothing else more intriguing. His alien-like beauty is very unnatural to me. I feel like his face was edited. I wouldn't know how to react looking at someone that looks that beautiful. I would just think they're like half alien or something. But that alone is not the reason why this photograph is so fucking hot. It's hot because of this cast shadow. You know, just this like hot sunny cast shadow, this redness right here, this saturation belt. It's so beautiful. But in your rendition, it's like the last thing that was given attention, and that really bothered me. You guys know I love cast shadows. And I love them because they're just so phenomenal in bringing out the form in something. A little bit of sharpness that goes a long way. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just getting my soft brush And I am see this sharpness right here? You don't get this kind of change in values unless it was like a really strong sunlight, that the rays haven't scattered yet or become wider. They're very sharp rays, meaning the brightness is really close to the sun. The sun is highest in the sky. And it's really, really close to its destination. So what happens is we get this darkness everywhere. Yes, we have this bounce light. I usually treat bounce light second. Always treat bounce light second. Write that back to me. That means that you layer it second, you do it second, you paint it second, you think about it second. Always appreciate the primary first in your work. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm just sharpening here. So the issue was you widen the scope, the gradient of the edge of the light and the cast shadow without paying the price. You still kept everything like it was in the shadow. When the shadow is that wide and you have that as wide a gradient as you had before, and I'll show you guys how wide it was, the whole lighting scheme will change. If the window was bigger, if it wasn't a small little crack in the ceiling, if it was like a, like it was a big window, the top of the nose would be more visible. But this is just one tiny little laser of light. It has to be treated like that. It has to be treated with the sharpness that it is. So if you can't read that, if you couldn't see that, if there was a blind spot in your vision, in your map or something, you couldn't see that this needed to be sharp, you just kind of stylized it, you broke a rule. And that is a fundamental rule that you broke. When someone says fundamental, they mean, like when I say fundamental, it means the solid rules you cannot break. They're the foundation rules. Students have no business trying to break fundamental rules. This applies to the measurement tips from earlier as well. And there's only a handful of fundamentals. That's why I repeat myself so much. There's only so many. But the effect they have over everything, that's why the world is so complicated. It's a very, very simple set of rules consistent across the universe, but what they control, their dominion is numerous. And just high quantity, I guess. So before, way too wide. It made it look like there was a window nearby that was much bigger than it really was. And if this was the condition, then it would not have caused this kind of light. It would have worked more as a universal instead of a secondary. There is a primary light source. There's a bounce light here. There's the primary coming out of here that's casting the nose shadow. And then you've got this third laser popping out of nowhere. You can treat this as second. You can treat this as second, just as long as you layer them properly. So this really bothered me when I saw it. I want to make sure that in your mind, the way you're layering light in your mind is accurate to the way it happens physically in physics. So you're treating it like a sharp laser that it is. It has a very finite edge that does not just suddenly bleed into the outskirts of the light. It's either in light or it's not. Of course, there is a minor gradient, but the laser is so sharp we don't detect that gradient. But you gave us way too much gradient all around. It made it look cheap, made it look very long, it made it look like a really bad dodge tool job, which was used with a soft brush instead of a sharp, beautiful cast shadow laser. Okay. Anything around it though is a little bit exposed. So the top tip of the nose, you see that shine marker right there? And then this part here, all pointing up at the light. This part of the chin, this part of the upper lip is a little bit brighter than this one. You just got to squint your eyes to detect it. This part here, a little more exposed to the light. And you've got a lot of sharpness all around the eye. So this eye is being fed a lot of detail. So that means that we need the line of the lash line, which is a very strong detailer. The lash line is a detailer, meaning if you have a blurry lash line, you have a blurry eye. If you have a blurry eye, you have a really bad focus job in your portrait. When your eye is very, very sharp, you have a very well rendered, it's got good edges, that means that you have a really focused portrait. A bad portrait is a portrait that has super detailed nostrils, under rendered pupils, super detailed hair. Those are like really, really common beginner mistakes. I think we do need to have another common beginner mistakes class soon. So what I'm doing now is I'm grabbing that line pencil. We're detailing now. We took care of edges and contrast. And now we're just bringing in those necessary details. He looks very focused and alert and beautiful, but this guy looks kind of tired and lazy. I would rather, two things I would rather see you accomplish in preserve in your rendition. The sharpness of the cast shadow, of course, and the expression in the eyes. Nose and mouth, just look at it. Nothing is happening. But it's just the eyes, the squint, and then that visibility at the top of the eye, the pupil. And then just the eyebrows and the shape of the eye, how slanted they are. So he's got a downward slant. The inner corner is lower than the outer corner. That makes him look so adorable. And, you know, this is a great reference if you want to draw like an Asian-esque kind of elf or something like that. I'm not sure if this photo was edited. I don't know if this is how he actually looks like. Gotta help him fight off all the ladies. He looks a little too girly for me. I don't know. I like my men to look a little bit like ogres. I have to be serious right now. I think he's a little too pretty. I think he'd hog my mirror. I don't know if any women are like that. You know, you're taking care of all the beautiful, you know, being the girl or whatever. He can just do all the ugly. There has to be a balance. The nose is too big. I don't think so. Again, the nose you can get away with doing whatever you want to its measurements. I think it's all in the eyes. You're losing a lot of the expression in the eyes. They look like basic 14-day challenge eyes, where here he's really squinting and he's really just, it looks like he's happy, confident. It's just a beautiful expression for you to memorize and keep in your visual library, I think. You're a hobbit? Okay, so this is another thing where we have issues with measurement. Your eyeball, you hand drew it. Please stop drawing the pupil, and the iris. Stop hand drawing the iris, okay? It needs to be a perfect circle, or else you're losing so much of the character. This human is human because they're human, right? That means that they need a functional eyeball. So this character you're drawing is actually a human character, believe it or not. Humans need perfect circular eyeballs. If you wanted to capture all of this that this character is, you're going to have to capture what makes them human. And what makes them human is a functional circular eyeball, iris, pupil. So if you're hand drawing this stuff, you're always going to be cast behind into the back with the rest of the cartoony hybrid anime people. No offense to them, but it's a very specific kind of eye that they draw, which is not necessarily a functional eye or an eye that rotates. But as soon as you bring in realism and start rendering and giving me cast shadows, that's when we need something realistic to happen. All right. So I got that circular shape of the eye. I gotta zoom him out a little. And then now I need to lengthen. See that wideness? Very, very wide. So I'm doing that, and his eye just folds inward a little bit, and then I'm doing that. This corner is higher than this corner. And you'll capture a lot of what makes this guy. You chose this reference because he looked pretty, right? Why are you letting it go that your rendition looks nothing like him? You chose the reference because you liked how it looked. So work on it. Work on making it look like that. Nothing bothers me more than when I choose a reference and my version looks nothing like it. Why did I choose that reference then if I can't capture it? I'll try again, and I'll keep trying until I know for sure I captured what it was that made me fall in love with this reference. And as artists, we're very, very picky with our references. And if you're not capturing the likeness like this in the way it needs to be captured, there's no point in choosing or being so picky if you're just going to do your own thing and break a lot of realism rules. So kind of just helping out the detail here. Okay. So before, very tired looking eyes, not very similar to what's happening in the reference. And then now I kind of captured what was happening there. My visual library is now stacked with this knowledge, and I don't have to worry so much about not having a picture that, you know, a rendition that looks nothing like the reference. So right now I'm casting some shadows. The secondary light source is actually casting shadows upward. So this is a very defined edge. This is where the nose started to turn this way instead of inward, so I have to define that as well in my version. Just this line right here. See that? Very, very pretty. Connects straight into this. And if you were to color this, don't forget this red line everywhere. That's basically all the cartilage, all the free loose skin, anything that the light is coming through. There's a lot of subsurface scattering in here. If you went inside his nose in the Magic School Bus and you were just to park right over here, it would just be a big red balloon that you live in, because all that light has gone through and illuminated the skin from the inside out. This pattern here is a little bit off. It goes straight down. I don't want to throw off the contour of his nose. He's got a little bit of a thing like that. His cheek bumps inward. And then we've got that tucks in. So this is all that was left in your version, I believe. This is all that I would have loved to see. Just the capturing of the eyes and how wonderfully unique they are. They're very unique realistically in the real world, but they're not unique at all with character design. Everyone chooses this beautiful elf eye, but to find it in the real world, edited or not, is a very rare case. So very unique indeed. I'm doing some last minute stuff. This large brush stuff that I'm doing, I've talked about this before. It's that final haze, the texture of the light and what it does to the landscape of the skin. So any questions at all? So I'm taking questions now. If you want to ask me a question, just write at Istebrak so I can find it, or else it'll get flooded. Isn't the lower part of the pupil too light? You can choose whatever. It's just son of a bitch. You can choose whatever you want color-wise of the eyes, right? You don't have to worry so much about the color of the eye to be exact. If you wanted to make silver eyes, go ahead. So you get away with ruining kind of exactly what the eye looked like in the reference. But if you wanted to capture his hazel or brown eyes, then you'd have to just copy whatever you see in there. What I love brown eyes, so I'm just going to try to darken them the way they are in the reference. Also, your waterline is very thick. This is not at all this visible in the reference. So I'm just going to smudge away. What's happening? Oh, motherfucker. Wrong brush. Alright. Just blending away over here. I'm going to illuminate the most internal part of the pupil right before the pupil starts, just to give it that extra little bit of contrast and detail. That specular highlight gets a little more attention. This one I'm going to darken just a little bit more to exaggerate the importance of this side. Also, you have too much brightness on this half of the forehead. There is nothing there illuminating the forehead like that. This entire half right here, if we really want to exaggerate what's happening, we have to, if we want to make this count, we have to make one half brighter than the other. So what I'm going to do is just illuminate this half. This part of the nose, this upper part of the nostril right here, that's getting all that bounce light. And then using darken layer, I'm going to just darken this half of the face. I'm just going to choose a mid-tone. What that's going to do for me is give me a chance to illuminate this half even more. So get that final tertiary light source. Or what I do is I just blanket it. This is how I do secondary light sources. I blanket it, choose a hot spot, which is the hottest point the light was moving in, and then I start blocking. So I erase away wherever the face ended at this blanket of light source I threw. And then just over here on the edge of the neck. Sorry about the noisy tablet. Oops. And I'll show you the effect that has in a second. I'll merge that. Nope, can't merge it yet. Got my eraser brush, and I'm just erasing along this line right here. Because there's a point where after which the brush stopped, the light stopped. Moves all the way into the chin. You see that? There's some over here, but I'm just going to ignore that. I want all the attention to just go to that hot spot of laser light just moving on his face. I'll look at the questions in a second. There's a little bit on this part of the eyeball. It's a little bit. I'm just going to invent my own. There's going to be a little bit on this part of the forehead. Whatever the temple area that eventually moves into the hood of the eye, that's what's getting some light, and that's where the light kind of ends. Just going to smudge that a little bit into the temple, which is actually happening in the reference. Okay. And then he's got a little bit on his cheeks, so that dimple kind of cancels out. Okay. And I'm just gonna soften that up. And this background haze that you have has thrown off the edge of the painting. I don't know why he's got a halo of darkness all around him. Like he's got like this darkness growing out of him. You just need to make sure this light environment background is proving that he is in a light environment. He's in a light room. So if you give me like this halo of darkness all around him, because it was artistic, you're throwing off the light environment. You're throwing everything off. There's three things that play and affect each other in a painting: the object, the light source, and the background. That brings all of that together: the room, the object, and what's revealing everything, which is the light source. So if you throw off this gradient and give me something else, we end up having this really weird shadow, and we end up throwing off the light source and stuff. So this edge just spoke straight into the edge of the face and the start of the background. So you need to make sure you respect that. Also, male faces especially are very hairy, so we end up having this really, really thin brush that we can use for the haze of their face. And I'm just smudging away at the background as I would with a sketchbook, just to clean everything up. No random artistic patches or anything like that. Okay, last little touches over here, and then before, after, before, after. We are missing one more little shadow on the corner. And we're bringing out a little bit more, painting outward along a z-axis. Instead of just making up our own shadows, we're preserving some of our own. And we have the cast shadows. See this line? These are used white. What you could have done is just throw off some cast shadows like that of the lashes. The lashes were casting shadows over everything. So this pattern that we see everywhere, that's the cast shadow of all these lashes. See that bone structure, so important. I guess you can leave this part here dark because you see a value that's darker, but over here it's very bright. That light goes across his face and into the background. That patch of light here was not necessary. And he's got oily skin and there's a little bit of oil shine. That's complete reflection. That's like a mirror. Like he just had a mirror on his forehead. Just cleaning that up. As for his likeness, the shape of his eyes is very, very geometric, very square. His eyebrows, sorry. You kind of threw off the light here. You kind of just made his eyebrow a little too hairy on the side over here. So I'm just choosing this value and running it up. So we don't lose that frame. Eyebrows frame hair. Frame the eyes, sorry. What the hell am I saying? Eyebrows frame the eyes. So try not to lose their shape or lose whatever detail they're afforded. Okay, so we're capturing real events of light. This is real instances of light instead of something we've made up. This is now behaving as the light source. What I would do is, because it's just falling right on his face, I would just kind of try to cut this part off, but that's just something I would do. Just change the shape of the laser instead of it being exact. Okay, so these are some changes. I hope they help you. And then I'm going to look at those questions you guys asked. The highlight on his neck needs to be softer, no? You mean this one right here? Yeah, I just didn't blend it out. Is the cast shadow underneath the nose too strong? Yes, it is. Yes, it's very strong. There's a lot here that's bouncing light. It needs to be a much more blurred, a blurred edge, and a lighter value. That's what makes something, a shadow, strong. How dark it is and how sharp it is. I can draw adequately, but I don't feel like I can. I don't know how to control the paint like I can with line. Why? How do I fix this? I'm using fingers. Buttercup, you're asking a very big question. You're saying I can... It's like saying I can make the model of a plane, but I can't fly a real plane. Why? If I make a model of a plane, I should be able to fly a real plane. No? That's exactly what you're asking me right now. Just because you can draw something and you can control the line does not mean that you understand what form is. It doesn't mean you know what light on form and edge is. It doesn't mean you know what to do with your brushes, when to blend, when not to. What you need to do is work on figuring out the common denominator of everything, which is the geometry. Learning the squares and the circles and everything. Learning how to render them. When to blend your brush into a gradient that grows radially. When to just suddenly cut off a value. What that line is representing edgewise, symmetry, function. Just because you know how to draw build a model of a plane, just because you can put together a what are those things called that we used to play with? Damn it! Oh, what are they called? Bionicles. Just because you can put together a bionicle does not mean that you can build a transformer or you can build a rocket. Okay? It's not the same at all. It does not mean you know, if you can outline an apple and draw it with a line, it does not mean you know how to shade radially. It does not transfer over. You don't know how to render, is what you're saying. Good question, courageous question. I always commend you guys for asking these wonderful questions. But I want to show you the error of your ways in thinking that it transfers over. It does not. A line is the silhouette and the symbol of something. It is not the something in light and its form and density as light shines on it in an open space. That's why you don't know how to fly a plane. You haven't studied its mechanics. All right. Isn't his face too long? Yeah, his face is very, very square. Again, it's just a matter of what they wanted to take back. Like I said, if you take anything back, everything else can be lengthened and shortened. But the eyes, the exact image, picture of the eyes, and the cast shadow. Okay, Skype. Just popped in and I was wondering how you would pick your grays. Whenever I try grayscale after blending a bit, the grays even get a bit muddy. Probably just a bad technique, but I need your help. How would you pick grays? Well, what grays mean to you isn't right if you don't know how to pick them. What they mean to you right now, they're... It's so hard for me to answer this question. Doing form studies makes you think about which side is facing the light. So that's going to be the lightest gray. How gray you go, or how light you go in that gray, is the color of the object. So ask yourself, where is the light and what's the color of the object? Find the color equivalent of that. Find the gray equivalent of that color. So if it's yellow, it's a pretty light gray. If it's red, it's a pretty dark gray. So the color and the direction of the light source is a good place to start. How do you take inspiration from a reference without having to reproduce it? Well, inspiration means you're reproducing something. So either you've chosen the light source and you've reproduced that. Inspiration means that it's a very general term, but it just means what you decided to copy or what you decided to reproduce for yourself. When someone looks at two birds fighting in the sky and then inspires them to write a story, they're going to write about two birds fighting in the sky or two somethings fighting each other. I don't know why I imagine that. That's really weird. It's kind of like delving into my psyche right now. But what happens is you... Whoa. That was really ominous. But what happens, you're always copying something out of what you're inspired by. So J.K. Rowling, when she was inspired by Harry Potter, didn't she name Harry Potter after someone she knew? A boy who had a sister or something like that, like a family friend that she knew, these little kids, and she just copied their lives. And then she turned them into Hermione, and she turned them into the other one with the ginger hair. Ronald and Harry. Like you're always copying something. So you're just choosing one fragment to copy from, not necessarily word for word. But yeah. What's the best way to start learning the different skin tones? By knowing the undertone. So olive skin or Asian skin or Middle Eastern skin is always very yellow and very gray. Caucasian skin has yellowness in it, but it's got very cold undertone, so it's a very cool skin tone. So a great place to start is look at makeup videos. There's all kinds of videos out there that talk about how to choose your good foundation, how to choose foundation that matches your skin. You're either warm skinned or you're cool skinned, and that's what you're choosing from, purples or yellows, purples or oranges. Just two ends of the spectrum. So that's a great place to start understanding skin tones. You can't choose a cool blush on an olive base tone. You just can't. It looks really bad. I used to work in makeup, and whenever I had to put blush on a certain kind of face, if a girl really wanted to pull off a look, they'd bring in a picture, and I'd be like, that is not going to work on you because you're very dark. So what I need to do is find a dark version of that color for your skin, or else it's going to be too light. You're very warm skin, so you're not going to get away with this really, really cool lipstick as fast or as well as a girl with cool skin. What you need is a very warm version of that lipstick color or something like that, which most of the time I didn't have. So it's definitely not specific to art. It's very, very universal. All these rules of skin are very universal. Rules of color matching, rules of color balancing are very universal. What else? All these questions about is that too small, is that too large? It doesn't matter. Like I said, you only need to grab a couple things. No more question. This human is human because he is human. Exactly. And if you don't know what I mean, get the hell out of here. Basically what I meant by that is what makes this character, what inspired you, what even drew you to them is the fact that they have human functionalities, and you have to capture those if you want to capture the character. The realism makes them human. Before ending class, can you show us your thumbnails for the theme challenge? They're such shitty little sketches. Why do you guys want to see them? They're so bad. I'm not very proud of them at all. Can some references be adapted to work better in art? After all, we must represent the trudimenticity in something 2D. That's a really good word. I don't know what that means. Tridimenticity. I guess you just mean like the threeness of something. Yeah. Three-dimensionality, is that what you mean? Is that like a Spanish word? Tridimenticity. Is that really a word? That's a beautiful word. Anyway, I'm sorry. So how can we adjust something or adapt it to work better in the art? So you need to capture all the rotation, all the form, all the geometry, but like I said, you can make eyes a little bit more beautiful and tilt them down. Those happen in real life. You can make eyes pure silver and glowy. That can happen just fine without interrupting the circular shape of the eyeball. Colors and angles you can mess around with. All right, Roger? You can mess around with colors and angles. The nostril can have crazy angles to it, just as long as it's symmetrical and the septum is low. You not Spanish? Oh, okay. Sorry, Marco. But yeah, it you can mess around with angles. It's a good place to start. And three-dimensional. Yeah, I know, but it's a beautiful word. Yeah, angles, colors, color of the hair you can mess around with. You can't mess around with how large a jaw is too much, because a jaw is a jaw. It needs to jaw. It needs to chew. So if it's too big, it's going to be weird. It's going to destroy the function. If it's too small, it won't work. The person won't breathe. We actually have these issues in real life. People are born with underdeveloped jaws. So anything that stands in the way of function or inhibits function is really bad stylization. If your write this back to me. If your stylization inhibits function, that's bad stylization. Stylization can happen in angles and colors. Okay? A little bit in scale. Right? All of that back to me if you dare. Three-dimensionality. Tridimenticity. But it sounds like it's a real word. That's such a cool word. I love that word. I'm going to use that word. Tridimensionalidad exists in Spanish. That's true. If your stylization inhibits function, that's bad stylization. Thank you, Isa. Perfect. Don't copy paste that. So I hope that answers your question. Let's move into this painting and call it a day. Alright, I'm going to show you guys a demo of Portrait Studio and how it looks now. It looks amazing now, so if you guys are ready for that, we'll take a look at that. Something that you did here, which I'm not exactly sure why you did, but on the navigator you can really see it, is this excessive bag. You are allowed to have bags under the eyes, but she looks very young. Also, you have an outline here. This is not speaking so much as a highlight, but an outline around the nostril, so I'm pushing that up. Those were the biggest issues you had. Also, your 3/4 view rotation for the nostril, it was too visible on the other side. If we saw her from front view, this half of the nostril would actually be way bigger. So this needs to be tucked away. This size needs to be asymmetrical. Asymmetry can happen, but it happens on a symmetrical way when we're rotating. Right? Remember that there is a healthy amount of asymmetry in rotating an object. I'm going to keep that sharp because the nose is now in front of the cheek. And I'm going to look really, really quickly into the 14-day challenge category in the community. And I just want to talk about this epidemic that we're having. All right, so just to show you, you aged her and the rotation wasn't complete for the nose. See, this is just an outline. It wasn't even like the right kind of eye bag that happens on teenagers or everyone's face, really. So you might as well just take it out if you're going to render it in a way that's going to age and make the face uncanny. Once we took that out, she looked a lot less dead. She still has a very dead look, but it's very, very stylized. I think it's pretty. I think you've got like a very Coraline kind of darkness right now going on with her face, which I really, really think is very charming. If we put that in, it's just going to look like any other face. So I like seeing either a dim light or no light at all. You guys have seen my art, I'm sure you've noticed. But this is very, very pretty. I'm just going to put a little dim one. A little dim eye light, just to show that it is water. It's not made of glass. But before, after. It just got in the way. And that outline around the nose made the nose very, very flat. Where here it feels like a little bit in the way of the light. All right, let's jump into the community. God damn it! I don't even know how to. New window. All right. Community. Oh, it's gonna keep taking me to that. Okay. 14-day challenge. This is not 14-day challenge. Wait a second. Am I on 14-day challenge category? Yes, I am. This is not 14-day challenge. I'm going to put that in miscellaneous. Value sharing. Value sharing. Value sharing. Value sharing. Value sharing. You know how you say something so many times it starts to sound really weird to you? It started to sound really, really weird to me. Value sharing. Sounds like I'm saying like some sort of alien thing in some alien language. Value sharing. Oh my god. Oh my god, value sharing. Did you even watch my videos? Hey, Ramsey. Ramsey479. Yeah, you. Sitting there minding your business. Did you even watch my videos? Have you even watched some of the 14-day challenge critiques I've done in the past? So let's go to YouTube. Let's go to my channel. Videos. Let's do a quick search. Whoops. Challenge. Alright, video. YouTube, get your shit together, please. Alright. 14-day challenge. 14-day challenge. What is the 14-day challenge? Design challenge. Design challenge. So many 14-day challenge. 14-day challenge. 14-day challenge. 14-day challenge. 14-day challenge. And the question that I get the most is, what is the 14-day challenge, Istebrak? There's no other topic I talk about more in my channel than the 14-day challenge. 14-day challenge. 14-day challenge. No way. But lo and behold, value sharing. Value sharing. And I talk about value sharing in literally every single video of the 14-day challenge and out of that. Value sharing is when you use a shadow that is in the, when you use, oh my gosh. Value sharing is when you use a value, light or dark, to describe different kinds of depressions, high or low, okay? Different types of elevations, different types of contours. You can't use the same value to describe a variety of contours. Write that back to me. That's officially a public service announcement. That's what value sharing means, and that's that. Okay, so please remember to stop value sharing. For all of you 14-day challengers, if you have not watched the videos that I have here, numerous videos, please go and catch some so that you can see some of the rules in painting a face. A lot of you are here and doing this challenge. This is beautiful. Because you want to get better at drawing a face, because drawing a face is a big deal for your portfolio. I commend all of you for doing this. It's a very big challenge to teach yourself how to draw a face and fighting your habits and developing a real, believable, dependable rendition of the human face for your portfolio to use in character design and all kinds of employment. But if you're not spending, if you're thinking that just by doing the challenge, just by showing up, just of course that you're going to improve a little bit. But if you think you're going to get a drastic change between day 1 and day 2, if you're not studying in different ways, if you're not watching some videos, getting real critiques, taking your time with the painting, you're not going to maximize your improvement for this challenge. So there's so many videos out there. Please stop value sharing. You cannot use the same value for different or for a variety of elevations or for a variety of contours. It does not work like that. I'm Zara and I hate value share. Okay, so that's it for today. I'm going to show you guys really quickly Portrait Studio and all the updates that are now here. They're going to be out very soon. So let me just show you. It's really hard to describe what the changes are. So fantastic. Window. Play. All right. So here it is. Let's choose. Let's go to the lighting panel. So everything's a little bit more organized, lighting wise. You got the models in separate areas. So we're wrapping up the production, just making sure that the shadow fidelity and bounce light is as accurate as possible. We're also trying to make this as low impact as possible on performance on your computers, so that you can run it in lower end PCs. I'm sure a lot of you don't have those crazy high-end graphics cards. And definitely there will be an Android version of this for your tablets. I'm not so sure about iOS or anything Apple related, but there will definitely be a light version of this. All the functionality is still going to be there, but for you to carry it everywhere you go, I think that was something I really wanted, because I sketch by hand. I want my references nearby. We still need to optimize all the settings to be the best quality as possible, so we're still figuring out best settings for like anti-aliasing, for instance. We're trying to figure that out, maximizing that while staying very light on your computer. But here's an example of kind of what we've done. So there's the strength of the universal light source. Then you've got point lights, and then you've got the vertical right there. You can control the light. You can control the rotation of the model. You now have a floor that bounces the light off, so you have that real-to-life bounce light that comes off the bottom. And then you've got the horizontal right there. That's a little bit too strong for me. So if you ever needed to reference a face, the models are new. Thank you to our modeler for continuing work on them. They look a little bit more realistic, a little bit more organic. And then you can control just the sizes of the eyes depending on the character you want. What I've implemented and what we're going to be adding soon is an individual randomizer. So you can get, even though this is a female face, you can get some crazy kind. I'm going to be showing you guys a demo for it, but a crazy amount of variety if you felt like designing different kinds of faces across the planet. And the normal map hasn't been added on top, by the way. This is just the base. But I wanted to keep you guys updated on what we're doing. But yeah, you can randomize. You can use a female face to paint or to model a male body. There's no modeling involved. That's the beauty of Portrait Studio. We're using it as a way to bring you modeling, bring you constant referencing and real-to-life lighting without you having to do the modeling yourself, because not a lot of us can just go out there and memorize how to use Maya and whatnot. Or ZBrush or something like that, which is very trying on computers. Not everyone has a computer that's good enough to run Maya or ZBrush. But you've got all kinds of features you can adjust to the mouth. You can adjust its placement, make it wider, make it smaller. And the randomizer is very funny. I'm going to be showing you a little bit of the randomizer. I'm not sure if the randomizer works right now. Randomize features. Just look at that. It's just randomizing it to all kinds of levels. You can turn off certain features you want to randomize, so you can just turn that off. But this is my favorite thing about it. You get all kinds of variety. We also have downloaded different models for you to test. But yeah, as for all of these different little blocking areas here, all these weird little shadow acne, that's the stuff that we're optimizing right now. We can push this to the highest level of performance, but it means that you guys won't be able to run it. It's like running high graphics on your computer. Unfortunately, even if you had Maya, even if you had ZBrush, you can't run all of those high polys at the same time. That's the difficult thing. We're limited by our computers and our graphics cards. But we're trying to find it where the shadow will perform in the best way possible, and the smoothest edges and the realist radial, like the gradation of the light, without challenging your computers too much. So we're going to have different profiles, I believe, of the kind of settings you can turn on and off that let your computer run as fast as possible. Also, if I was you and I had a really bad computer, or like a 6-year-old computer, I would just turn everything off, get all the references I need, turn off Portrait Studio, and start up Photoshop. I wouldn't try to run it like right now. I'm running everything at the same time because my graphics card can manage it. But even now, my graphics card is humming, and I've got a lot of RAM and a really good graphics card. So I can't imagine you guys being able to do the same thing if you have Portrait Studio. However, from programming, coding, to all kinds of stuff that goes into to developing Portrait Studio has been optimized thus far. So whatever the current model you have of Portrait Studio right now, if it makes your computer hum, this one will not make your computer hum, because I've tested it on mine, I've tested it on another computer. It does not make the computer hum. So everything's been, we were constantly coming out with these overhaul updates just to make sure that all of you who currently own it, any update that comes out, any issue that you might be having has been ironed out. From models to the lighting performance to variety, the stuff that you can change. As for like, our team is still researching into how to make posable models. That's another big thing to worry about. And it's like running the highest graphics of any game on your computer and being able to control everything. It's like having a game. We're made it on a game engine. It's the only way we really could have made it. So that's why it's being treated as a game. Also, these game engines allow us to design a program it's already prepared to make the game work according to everyone's computer. So it's already has a way of allowing us to control how much performance is in it and control how challenging it is to your computer. So that's why we used Unity as the main engine we developed Portrait Studio from. But I've been promising an update for so long, and this is our work on it recently. Everything's been changed, and here's some more examples of it. Then we've got another model over here. If you wanted to study it, you control the lighting. And then there's indirect lighting. There's bounce light. I think I have to change the color. Alright, so there's that bounce light right there. If you guys see that under the eyes. Then you can turn off ambient light. And so you can have just harsh shadows exactly where they're supposed to be. So you get really realistic lighting situations that change the values and the degrees of the values as you work with them. So it's not just like one condition of lighting. You have different times of day, different nearby reflectors, different humidity levels and how they affect the light. And you can apply color for bounce light. I just can't wait to use it on a masterpiece of my own, but I've just had no time. But I hope that these updates I'm going to apply a higher variety of models for you to study with. You can control the background color, and you can grayscale. So if you have chosen colors and you just feel like grayscaling everything, you have that option as well. You'll have a screen cap little button here that sends a JPEG of the model frame that you decided from the camera angle, sends it to your desktop so you can use it as reference. There's just a bunch of other stuff. There's also Form Studio. Outside of the models of female and male, you just get shapes that you get to control in a landscape for form studies, organic or geometric. So it's just going to be a lot of stuff that's coming up, which is why it's taking so long. It's a very small team. I'm going to finally upload one last final video describing what Portrait Studio is. But thank you to everyone who has one, who bought one, who supported us. If you currently have one, the update is free. If you do not have one and you are interested in buying one, right now is the cheapest it's going to be. All right, thank you everyone for watching today. That's it for today. If you want to join the class, if you're here for the first time, just go to istebrak.com. Everything I showed you guys today is available there. You go to community, you go to join here. The current challenge that's up is, whoops, I didn't upload that, but the current challenge that's up is a conversation with a dragon. But yeah, just enjoy the challenge, have fun. I'm not going to be around next week. 25th is my surgery. Wish me luck. I'm probably going to take a week for full recovery, so then 2 weeks for if I need an extended recovery period. So today and tomorrow were the last sessions before a potential 3-week break. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. I will see you guys on Thursday. Bye-bye.